Hello everyone and welcome back to the 2024 Filet Crochet Calendar Blanket Crochet Along. This is February, and as you can see we have a nice filet crochet heart design for the middle and just some little accents on each corner. As always, I am using a 4.5mm crochet hook for this project, as well as 4-weight acrylic yarn. This month I'm using sort of a rich dark pink Impeccable by Loops and Threads, and this colorway is called Rich Orchid. I recommend having one ball of that yarn per square per month. So this is 285 yards. You probably won't need all of that, but everybody's tension is a little different, and you always want to err on the side of having more yarn and not playing yarn chicken at the end. If you are new to this project, be sure to check out my how to filet crochet tutorial, which I will link down below. You can check that out if you want to know more about how to do filet crochet. For this tutorial, I will just work up a few rows with you on camera so you can kind of get the idea, and I will put the graph in one of these corners at the top so you can follow along, and at the end of the video I will have the graph full screen so you can screenshot it and save it for later as a good reference. I am also in the process of putting these patterns with the graphs available on Etsy, and as soon as that is up I will link that down below so you can check that out if you want to have a physical copy of this pattern and the graph. To start, you want to start with a slip knot on your hook, and we're going to chain 48 to start. Once you have 48 chains, you're going to find the 4th chain away from the hook, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you're going to work a double crochet into that chain. A double crochet into the next, a double crochet into the next, and a double crochet into every stitch all the way down the chain. And that is row 1. So in filet crochet we read right to left on the odd rows, and the even rows we read the graph left to right. So row 1, the graph shows us that it is all shaded in, which means we are creating blocks, which means every stitch will be a double crochet. Row 1, all boxes, all double crochets. Every row starts with a chain 3, turn, and that chain 3 is the first stitch of our block. In filet crochet, a block is equal to 4 stitches. So if the block is shaded in, it's going to be a double crochet in 4 stitches. So here's 1, that would be 2, 3, and 4, and that would be your block. If on your graph the square is open and not shaded in, that is a double crochet, chain 2, skip 2, a double crochet in the next, which equals the 4 stitches. So for this graph, reading from left to right, the graph has us working 2 blocks. So there's the first stitch of block number 1, so I need 3 more double crochets, so a double crochet in the next 3, and there's the first block of our second row. We need 1 more block. The last double crochet that you did counts as the first stitch of our next block. So I've already got stitch number 1 done. I need 3 more double crochets. So a double crochet in the next 3, and those stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, those 7 stitches count as 2 blocks because we always count the stitch from the previous block as the first stitch of our next block. On the graph, we now have an open space. So there is the first stitch of that open space. I'm going to chain 2, skip the next 2, and double crochet into the next. And that creates our open space. Now we need a total of 9 blocks. So I'm going to work double crochets to create my 9 blocks, and then we will work that open space and the rest of the graph for row number 2. So go ahead and work 9 blocks. There's my first block. That last stitch from that space counts as the first stitch of this next block. This stitch now counts as the first stitch of my next block. Two blocks done. So I'm going to keep working blocks for a total of 9. So I've already done 2, I need 7 more blocks, and then we'll work that end of row 2 together. After you've done a total of 9 blocks after our space here, you should have 9 stitches, including that sort of our turning chain on the end. So looking at the graph, we need to make another space. Our last double crochet from the previous block counts as that first double crochet stitch. We're going to chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next, and the last 2 blocks are all double crochets. So we're going to work the rest of the stitches, a double crochet into each, and a double crochet into the top of that turning chain because that does count as a stitch. And into the top of that turning chain. I like to try to get under 2 stitches of that instead of just 1 so it looks a little bit more even. And there is row 2. Row 3, we're going to be reading from right to left. Every row starts with a chain 3. Turn. Looking at the graph, we have 1 block. So I've already got my first stitch of the first block. I'm going to work a double crochet into the next 3. Now we have a space. There's my first stitch of the space. I'm going to chain 2, skip 2, and work a double crochet into the next. We now have a block. There's our first stitch of the block. You want to work a double crochet into the stitches, not into the space. Try to work into the stitches or those chains. So a double crochet into those 2 chains that we did for our space from the previous row, and a double crochet into the next. And that's how you work over those spaces. We have a space. So I'm going to chain 2. Here's my first stitch, chain 2, skip 2, and a double crochet into the next, and that gives us our 4 stitches. And looking at the graph, we now have a bunch of blocks. So I'm going to go ahead, work the rest of those blocks, and then I will meet you when we get to the other side of row 3. I have worked all of my boxes in between our spaces. I am now at my next space. There is the last stitch from the previous block. I need to work a space. That also counts as my first stitch of the space. Chain 2, skip 2, double crochet into the next. We now need a block. I'm going to work a double crochet into the chain stitches. And into the next. Next we need a space. There's our first stitch of the space. Chain 2, skip 2, double crochet into the next. You should have 3 stitches left. Remember, you want to count that turning chain as a stitch, and we're just going to double crochet into each of those remaining 3 stitches. And that is row 3. So I'm going to leave you to it to finish up on your own. If you have any questions with this, as always, leave me a comment and I will do my best to help you out, answer any questions, and it's also a good way for the community to also answer questions that you may have. When you get up to these rows where we start to shape the little heart image onto our fabric, it's really easy. They're all just those spaces. So as always, you just work the double crochet, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next. That stitch counts as the first stitch in the next block or space that you're working. So you just chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next, and you wind up with basically just working double crochets into the tops of your previous row double crochets for at least the center of this heart. I hope you enjoyed the February graph pattern for this crochet along calendar blanket, and I will see you in March. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.